In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts Alex and Sean. On this episode, we're going to be talking about what the Bears can learn from the Eagles. The Cubs already getting some injury bugs, some bad news for a White Sox player, and more. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. The season is going on right now, so make sure you head on over to icehawks.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, how are you doing, my friend?
I am doing fine. I'm just trying to avoid this Arctic blast that's coming up. Otherwise, though, cannot complain.
Yeah, the snow was bad, and what I hate is when you get that big snow and then it freezes, and then you've just got big chunks of ice everywhere because anywhere that the snow wasn't melted or plowed, it just like big chunks of frozen.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, the thing too is my car sits outside and, I drive it a lot, going to work and whatnot, and the roads are so salty where it's like I need to wash my car. I feel like every few weeks because I don't want that salt just accumulating on my car and eat away at the side.
I literally went to the car wash about an hour before we recorded.
Look at that. See, you're on the same page as me.
Yeah, because I was like, you know what? We're not supposed to get any more snow for this might be the last snow of the season that we had. There's not any in the forecast the next 2 weeks, and then we're in March at that point. So I was like, you know what? We're not getting any more snow, and the car is like a hot mess, and it's gonna get freezing cold this week. So I'm like, let me just get it done and out of the way now, and um, then it'll be dry by the time the freezing cold comes. So went through the quick drive through, and I drove by, and there was quite a few cars there, but it wasn't like backed up like the place we usually go to. It it they have 3 lanes to go into the car wash, and then it wraps down the side street, and then down Lawrence Avenue, and then up Narragansett. So like, it's so hard to get in when on nice days during the winter. And this one was, we was like maybe a 8-minute wait, so it was pretty quick.
Yeah.
All right, so this week, I don't know if we saw, we talked about Virginia passing, and her
hmm
funeral was just the other day, and man, the star power that came out for the funeral was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, there were videos of the people pulling up, and I mean, you saw some of the suspects you expected to see, a lot of the Bears Hall of Famers and whatnot. But boy, yeah, you weren't kidding. Roger Goodell was there. Freaking Tom Ricketts was there. I believe the
Roger
own.
Good Roger Goodell flew in with John Mara, the owner of the Giants.
I was just gonna say, wasn't the owner of the Giants there too? Yeah.
Yeah, because the New York or the NFL's headquarters is in New York, so apparently he flew in with John Mara. So the two of them flew in on a private jet together.
Yep.
But man, just people coming in, that's a testament to being around the league that long. It's wild. Um,
Being around the league basically for its entire existence.
she was around for all but 36 Bears games ever.
Yeah. That's
Ever.
pretty crazy.
Yeah. I wonder what they're gonna do for her because they've got to honor her somehow, right?
So somebody proposed this idea. You know how it says
GSH.
GSH? Are they going to
hmm
do one sleeve with his initials and one sleeve with her initials?
I saw somebody post that on online, and I think that's a cool idea.
I mean, it kind of sends the message home, linking back to Papa Bear Hallis. And I think that the Bears being known for having that on their uniform would be a pretty fitting way to do it. I mean, if they're not going to do that, I'm sure they're going to have some sort of a patch. I'm
Yeah,
sure the
I was.
field will have something on it. It'll be they'll have something.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the patch is usually the patch is like a 1 year thing, and I don't know. I mean, because is George just going to honor his mom for 1 season? I mean, he's honored his grandfather at every turn. I mean, probably part of that is, Virginia has stay in it too, but the new stadium is going to be called like Hallis Stadium, um, or that's what they want to call it. So like,
Well, there's got to
uh,
be a sponsor within it, right?
oh,
I
I'm
mean,
sure, it'll be like, Motorola Field at Hallis Stadium or something.
exactly. Dasani water at Hallis Stadium, Dr. Pepper at Hallis Stadium.
Monster Energy drink.
Who would be the funniest spot? Because I'm trying to think of like the Bears' biggest spot.
Harold's Chicken.
Just randomly Harold's Chicken Field. Because like what? Who are the Bears' biggest sponsors? Dr. Pepper's a pretty big one, right? Like Dasani, Dr. Pepper. Is PNC Bank one of them? Let me see. Um, but yeah, I think they should do. They should go balls off the wall and just get some crazy ass like I don't know, Trojan condom field at Hallis
Well, remember when the
Stadium.
Dolphins had
Could
like
you
the
imagine
stadium?
that?
Remember when the Dolphins had a stadium that was like named after an underwear company?
Oh yeah, man, that place has changed names so many times.
It's
Because I
almost
think
worse.
now it's
It's almost as bad as White Sox Park.
well, yeah. I mean, you had it was what Comiskey 2, then U.S. Cellular, then Guaranteed Rate, and now just Rate. Because the company's not called Guaranteed Rate anymore, right?
I don't think so.
Right.
And then
So
they
here
had
are the
they changed their logo at one point too. So you've gone through that.
yeah, right. So here are the Bears' biggest sponsors: Dr. Pepper, Snapple Group, Miller Brewing, PNC, United Airlines, Verizon, Xfinity, and Proven IT. The team was the first in the NFL to have a presenting sponsor with the 2004 season advertised as Bears football presented by Bank One. I don't remember that, but I was also like 9 or 10 when that happened. So, huh. But yeah, Dr. Pepper Field, why not?
Swerski Stadium.
Yes. Yes. Imagine getting the royalties for that.
Oh yeah. I just I just hope that when they do have the new stadium that it isn't something dumb.
Crayola Field.
Harold and the Purple Crayon Field.
The freaking franchise of Harold and the Purple Crayons somehow gets naming rights to the freaking Bears Stadium.
There's just a giant purple crayon above the doorway to go in. It's like an arch. It's a melted crayon arch.
The freaking gridiron looks like it was painted on with a purple crayon.
The goalposts are purple crayons.
And if you hit them, they snap like crayons. And that crayon smell just fills the air.
They just pump the smell into the air.
Ugh. Ugh.
It's like the Colts when they pumped in noise, the Bears pump in crayon smell.
And then when the Bears take the field, they come out of a giant crayon box that opens.
You can't tell if it's a football field or like a children's dentist office. It's like a daycare.
The programs are all coloring books.
Oh my God. Oh, they decide they're gonna do a t-shirt cannon, but with crayons, and then somebody gets injured, and then they're like, we decided to stop that promotion.
Yeah, somebody got hit in the eye and they threatened to sue us, so that's over.
Uh,
Oh, dude, could you imagine this too? Like you go into the stadium and everybody's given like a kids menu you see at like a classic American diner, and you just get like the set of crayons with it. What is this for? Oh, it's for everybody. It's a giveaway. Have at it.
It's just it's a three pack of crayons, but usually it's red, yellow, and blue, but it's purple, purple, and purple.
Sir, doesn't it make more sense to do the Bears colors? No, purple.
Everybody loves purple.
But sir, purple is the main color of one of our biggest rivals. More purple, I said.
We're gonna take this north and we're gonna take the purple back.
Win the division and steal the purple from the Vikings.
They go back to the white helmets. It's like a pro wrestling promotion. It's like this game, the winner gets to take the other team's colors.
I love it. See, these are the good ideas that the NFL needs to implement.
Right? Uh, I saw there was somebody started a petition to bring back the honey bears now that Virginia's gone.
That was literally the first thing somebody tweeted. They're like, bring back the Honey Bears, because wasn't their final season in 85?
I think they might have been. Yeah, it was when I was young.
Yeah, I thought I read somewhere that it was after they won the suit for whatever reason, but um I sorry folks, I don't think the Honey Bears are coming back.
No, I don't think so. I mean, unless they sell the team, then there's probably a good chance. But as long as George is in charge, there's no way there's going to be the Honey Bears.
Yeah. Or he'll
M-
bring his own version of the Honey Bears in, and it's just a bunch of like business people like waving towels with bears hats on.
They're wearing skirts down to their ankles. Mugs would have kept the Honey Bears.
Yeah, right.
Uh, um, so the other bit of Bears news that's going on right now is the Jaguars um are are have revamped their search for a GM, and it seems like Ian Cunningham is one of the two finalists. So he and the Bears, or the Packers VP of Player Personnel, John Eric Sullivan, are the two that are being brought in for a second interview. So it sounds like it's down to those two. And I heard rumblings that um, people didn't want the job because they had already hired
They already hired
a
the
they
coach.
hired a coach, and there was rumor that they wouldn't have final say over personnel decisions, and so people just didn't want that job.
Like, can you
Um,
blame them? I mean, they
oh
did
yeah, yeah,
everything backwards.
yeah. I don't blame them either. Um, and the rumor is they're also so they've changed their minds and they've opened that back up, and Ian Cunningham's now interested and a finalist. And also the rumor is that ownership is willing to trade Trevor Lawrence.
I do you see that happening?
No, I mean, I don't. I mean, here's the thing: is he a bad quarterback? No, but he hasn't lived up to the hype. I mean, he was one of those generational quarterbacks, and that was supposed to come out of the draft, and he hasn't been bad. He just hasn't been great, and he got that big money contract. I could see somebody trading for him,
That would
Like
still
a
have to be a
Raiders.
massive haul, though.
Oh yeah. I mean, I just wonder how much that haul gets minimized by having to eat the contract.
Sure, I just like. Then again, it is the Jaguars, but if you're the Jaguars, I get it. He hasn't quite lived up to expectations, but like, boy, I'd still rather have Trevor Lawrence than a number of quarterbacks in this league. And if you're gonna trade him away, what are you gonna fill it with? Especially if the upcoming class isn't very good.
Right. Yeah, this class is terrible. Um, so I don't know. I don't know what you're expecting unless you're planning to just tear it down and rebuild. Um,
Which
I mean,
could, I mean, it could be.
yeah, I mean, if you're like, hey, we're gonna tear it down, um, and by the time we're good again, Trevor Lawrence is up for a new contract. Like, maybe that's their thinking and just tank. I mean, nobody in the NFL tanked no players tank. Ownership and GMs tank. Um, but maybe that's their goal is just to put crap on the field and rebuild. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, and that might have been smoke. Maybe just testing the waters to see who was interested. Because if somebody's like, yeah, we'll give you 2 first rounders and take that money off the plate, I think you take it.
Right, right. Yeah, that could be. That could be.
Because then you could use those 2 first round picks, sign a journeyman quarterback like Sam Darnold, and um, and then still have a ton of money and a bunch of draft picks. So, who knows? But if Ian Cunningham gets the job, the Bears wind up with 2 additional 3rd round picks. They get one this year and one next year in the draft. And for a team that's looking to get to be competitive really quickly, having that additional 3rd round pick is pretty huge.
Oh yeah, I mean, having third round picks like that given to you, that's not nothing. Like a third round pick is pretty notable in the NFL. Like there's a lot you could do with a third round pick.
Yeah, I mean, you should have a guy that starts for your team at some point and is a contributor off the bat.
Right. I mean, really, it would be huge to have that. And that's why, no offense to Ian Cunningham, I'm rooting for him to get that job. I really, really am.
Yeah, me too. Because you start looking, and it's way too early to start doing mocks and stuff. But the Bears need minimum 3 offensive linemen, 2 guards and a center. They need an edge rusher, at least one, probably a defensive tackle, uh, probably another running back, another wide receiver. And you're like, okay, they got money, but this free agent class isn't great. So you're like, we want to start accumulating these young players in the draft. So for the Bears, yeah, having more draft picks is crucial.
Right. Yeah, give me all the draft picks, man.
Um, and then we're about a week away from the NFL announcing the official salary cap number for next season. But the estimate is somewhere between 265 and 275. And the Bears, without making any moves, would have the 6th most cap space. And it's kind of wild because you're like, okay, they've got a good amount of money, and you're like, but man, the Patriots have a ton of money. They have like $119 million in space. But then you look even further, 9 of the 32 NFL teams are currently over the cap.
9 of them.
9. And
So,
and
if I,
the Saints are 50, and this is based on the they estimated the cap halfway between the 265 270. So I think they put it at 265 275. I think they put it at 271. So they still have, with that cap space, they have the Saints at $54 million over the cap.
jeez.
54 million
How's that possible?
every year. So they got into cap trouble when Drew Brees was still there, and they
Right.
kept just kicking that money down the road.
Right.
And so, I mean, at some point you got to pay the piper. And I know that people are like, oh, the cap isn't real, because you can manipulate it a lot. But at
Sure.
some point you do have to pay the piper. And so you've got to take that hit and get yourself back. So you can kick that can down the road and keep borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, but at some point, eventually you've got to make that payment. And the Saints might as well just bite that bullet now and try to get under the cap and stay under there.
So you said there are 9 teams that are over the cap.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them is the Saints.
Yes, they're the worst cap situation.
Obviously, yeah. I'm just trying to think. The others would be it's nobody in the NFC North, right?
Let me pull it up quick. Uh, Nobody in the Bears division.
Okay. Trying to think cap issues.
There's one
Uh
other blatant one that you should be able to get.
Well, I don't know if it's blatant, but weren't the Chargers having cap issues?
Um,
Or did they get under that one?
the Chargers are have about the same amount of space as the Bears, so they're fifth.
Okay, because I know last year they were getting rid of.
Yeah, they were getting rid of players. They cleaned house and they got under.
Right. Okay. Um, okay. So just trying to think here. I'll probably kick myself with a lot of these when you say them.
I'll give you a
Denver.
hint on I'll give you a hint on one. It's not Denver. You wouldn't want to be a massage therapist for their team.
Oh, the Browns.
Yes. The Browns over 30 million over the cap.
Okay.
The Bills are over 14 over the cap. Seahawks are 13 and a half over. Atlanta's 11 over. Not surprising with
Kirk
uh
Cousins deal. Yeah.
yeah, that and Ryan Pace, who just throws salary around like it's nothing. Um
Ryan Pace, I'm going to overpay for everybody.
um the Dolphins the Dolphins are 5.5 over. Cowboys are almost 3 over. The Chiefs are a million over. Um and Texans are 100K over.
And didn't aren't they saying now that it sounds like for sure Travis Kelce's coming back?
They've the team has given him a deadline of March 12th or 13th, sometime in March. It's the day before his roster bonus is due. They've given him the deadline of making the decision on if he's coming back or not. But I think he'll come back for another one. I don't think he wants to walk away, losing in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, right. I'm just saying, like, if he were to stay with the Chiefs, then you could be looking at a situation where a certain lineman might not be able to go back cap wise. Maybe. I don't know. Depends on what they do.
I mean,
Wink, wink.
he's Trey Smith is their best offensive lineman, and that team got manhandled in the Super Bowl. I can't imagine they're gonna let him go. They're gonna find a way to get him. I can't see them letting him go.
What if they replaced him in the draft? If they were that confident?
I mean, if they're that confident,
I mean, I get what you're saying. Like you said, the Eagles ate that line for lunch, but, you know, he's going to be expensive. Linemen, particularly elite linemen, are insanely expensive.
oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, honestly, I'm gonna throw a name out there that I'm interested in, and Trey Smith is very good. Just the question of, do you want to have a guy that sets the market at guard? Um, is There's two names I like. They're both old guys. They're not long-term answers, but they're definite upgrades. One is Kevin Zeitler, who I've mentioned before, coming from the Lions. He's like 35. So he is probably signing a 2-year deal and then is done. But he's been really good. The other one is going to go to the Hall of Fame. And I don't know if he's coming back, but he's a free agent. Is Zach Martin, the Dallas Cowboys.
Hmm.
And if you ever listen to offensive linemen talk about Zach Martin, they just talk about that guy is the model of consistency.
Hmm.
And he can play either tackle, either guard, and he's really good. And that's the kind of guy I would love to just draft a guard and a center and get Zach Martin and just plug him in and then let him just be there and be a force for that offensive line and set everybody of how they should be doing things, um, almost like a player coach. And he's not going to break the bank. I would love to see that. And then you put him next to either tackle and makes those tackles better. and then you draft a high guard and a high center, and suddenly your offensive line looks significantly better.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, turn a line from terrible to completely elite in one off season, but if you just make a significant leap, that can go a long way, especially when you actually have good coaching in place and you actually have a good scheme. Because I do think, as much as a lack of talent they had on that line, I think scheme was also a pretty big issue.
I think so too. Scheme and preparedness.
No, yeah,
So um,
discipline, big one too.
discipline definitely. I think you're going to see a much better, more more prepared, a more disciplined line with, where they know what they're supposed to be doing out there.
Right.
Then there's some good linemen here, but the depth falls off pretty big. I mean, if like you're looking at centers, Coleman Shelton, who was awful last year for the Bears, is rated by Pro Football Focus as the fifth best center in the free agent market. Tevin Jenkins is rated as the third best offensive guard in free agency. So
Mm,
the,
mm.
the depth does not go very deep. That's why, um, that's just going to make that Trey Smith contract look real big.
Well, yeah, exactly. And like you said, he's going to set the market. And what could happen if you set the market? You could still overpay. Now, again, the good thing is you have space, you have money, but I do think ideally, even if it's not Trey Smith, if you get one of those better linemen in free agency, that goes a long way because you're bringing in NFL experience in there.
Yeah, I
Ideally,
think they have to bring in a free agent guard.
yes.
You're not going to go in with all three of your interior linemen as rookies. I think even if they're good, that's a tough spot to put them in where you're just all three new guys. I think you could get away with, um, two young players, and but you've got to get a veteran in there. And I kind of like, I mean, Zach Martin is a guy that doesn't need any coaching. That he's just a pro's pro, Hall of Fame level, all time great guard. And Kevin Zeitler is a really good veteran. He's not going to be a high cost guy. I think he's on he's getting 6 million a year now, which is, you know, a quarter of what Trey Smith will get next year.
Yeah.
And he's playing really well, and he played for the last couple years for Ben Johnson. So he's I this might be old timey thinking, but I always like when you have a new coach, they bring in at least one player that previously played for them because it helps out setting the expectations. There's somebody in that building that knows what you want, how you practice, how you play, how you want things played, and they help set that tone. And Kevin Zeitler is about the most perfect fit for you. It's a position you need. He's a veteran. He's been there. Um, he could come right in. I mean, with an offensive coach, you're like, oh, maybe a backup quarterback or a wide receiver. But I think in this case, guard goes a long way.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, I don't even think the there's very many good Lions offensive players that are in free agency.
Available.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, there's not
I think
much.
I think Kevin Zeitler might be the best. Um, there's some defensive players, but offensive, I think Kevin Zeitler is your guy. So yeah, um, the last thing I wanted to talk about with the Bears is, are there any lessons that the Bears should learn from the Eagles and how they built this team?
I mean, trenches, trenches, trenches is obviously the big thing that everyone's talked about, that we've talked about. I also do like watching the Eagles ability to run the ball. And yes, it's easier said than done to just say that when you've got Saquon Barkley, who is a generational running back. And the Super Bowl, the run game wasn't really the factor there. I mean, the Chiefs, they coached so well to stop Saquon Barkley. But what's one of the reasons, maybe even the primary reason the Eagles got to the Super Bowl? It's running the ball, right? I mean, that was one of the primary reasons they were in that position.
Just draft well in general. If you look of the 27 of the draft picks that the Eagles have had since 2020, 24 of them are still on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
And like 11 of them are significant contributors. So they draft really well.
Well, and another thing too about the Eagles is, and this is kind of more of a fortune thing, they were pretty healthy for the most part, all things considering.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a luck of the draw. I mean,
Exactly.
you could have, players that have been healthy their whole careers and just suddenly get decimated. And honestly, I'm a big. This might just be one of those not true things that you just sort of believe, but I always feel like good teams have better health luck than the bad teams, and I think part of it is when you're playing more aggressively and playing dominantly, you're less likely to get injured than a player that when you're on a bad team and you're getting dominated and uh sometimes you start phoning it in or making business decisions, you get hurt because there's somebody that's on the other side of the field that's not they're playing for something and you're playing to just get done with the season and regroup. You start seeing injuries like that. And maybe that's just all in my head, but um, I feel like, the better the team you are, the better injury luck you have.
Yeah, and I mean, I think too is when you have a great team with great coaching, you're just playing smarter. And, obviously, smart players can get hurt all the time. It's football, it's a violent game. But I think when you're better disciplined, you're better coached, you're put in a few less positions to get hurt.
True. Another thing I started looking at with the Eagles is uh they they're smart about how they draft. I mean, obviously they're drafting the trenches. They've done really well in that. But they draft they don't draft players most of the time in non-premium positions. They sign them in free agency or make trades.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
draft
Saquon
they
Barkley.
dr-
Look at Saquon Barkley.
yeah, signed a free agent. So the they're drafting in the high cost positions. So they draft a quarterback, they draft a left tackle, they draft edge rushers. Um, people that go after the quarterback. They're not drafting safeties, they're not drafting inside linebackers, they're not drafting tight ends. They're signing them as free agencies because those are the non-premium positions. So they're managing the cap in that manner by drafting the non-premium or the premium positions and getting those years of rookie contract to help aid you, which is smart.
It is. They've been flawless at this, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Makes you wish we had that kind of a front office.
Hopefully it gets to that point. Fingers crossed. We'll
Yeah,
see now
hopefully.
that we have what we think is a better coach. We'll see how it goes.
Yep.
And then the last thing I had is some important dates coming up. The NFL Combine is um like a week and a half away. So that starts on February 24th through March 3rd. Then the legal tampering period for that opens free agency starts on March 10th. So we're less than a month away from free agency.
Yeah, it's
And
coming up quick.
and then the NFL draft starts April 24th. in Green Bay.
It'll be here before you know it.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's wild. We're like something like 68 days away or something ridiculous. It's not that long.
No, no, it's not.
Yeah, so we're a little over
And we
two
know that
months away.
between now and the drafts, we're doing mock drafts, we're looking at scenarios. Things are going to change between now and then because of the combine, because of free agency.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Things will start drastically changing, as we have the combine because there's going to be somebody that was a sleeper pick and then suddenly runs like a 4.3 flat and or bench presses like 40 reps of 225 or whatever ridiculous combine number they do is going to put them on people's radars. So
Yep,
it'll be interesting to see how this goes because this is a big draft for the Bears.
it's huge. You got to rebuild those trenches and you got to hit on your picks. This isn't one of those where, oh, if you hit on two or three, you'd be happy. You really got to hit on these.
Yeah, you can't take big swings on small school talent. I think I think if you're Ryan Poles, you've got to go in there and just be like, you know what? I'm drafting from the blue chip schools. I'm drafting Ohio State. I'm drafting Alabama. I'm drafting Georgia. I'm drafting Michigan. Um, I'm drafting these guys that have played against big time talent game in and game out at a high level. And that's not a guarantee of success because there's been plenty of people from those schools that have failed. But I think the hit rate is probably higher than, you know, um, picking a offensive lineman from Yale,
Or from Shepherd University.
which he worked out. I mean, he's a heck of a backup quarterback.
Yes, but we're trying to draft number one guys.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, he didn't draft him either. He just signed him as a free agent or undrafted free agent. But yeah, I mean, when
Touche, touche.
when I'm looking at those three top 41 picks, I want blue chippers. I
I
want
agree.
guys. I want guys that are going to come in day one and know what it's like to play high level football. I don't
Yes,
want a guy
I'm.
that's going to come in and be like, well, it's going to be a big step up in talent because he's coming from Southeast nobody state. Um, I want I want somebody that's like, oh yeah, yeah, I played across from, the guy that was drafted third overall, twice this year. That's what I want.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, you don't want to do the Kieran Amagajis or anything like that. Nothing experimental. You need as close to guarantee guys as you get. Now, there's no such thing as guarantee, but like you said, when you draft from those blue chip schools, the chances of you hitting are higher.
Yeah. I want safe. Like if you want to take big swings in the later, like the sixth, seventh round, cool, go for it. But those first three rounds, I want safe picks. I want safe picks. That's what I want.
Yeah.
I don't
Yep,
want a
I'm with
guy.
you.
I don't want a high upside guy, but the floor is low. The edge rusher they drafted last year was high ceiling, low floor guy, and we didn't see much from him last year. And maybe having a year under his belt helps out because they drafted him young. But I I feel like you've got to learn your lessons and try to draft safer.
Yep.
Um, is there anything else Bears related you wanted to talk about?
No, I don't really have anything else.
Cubs, the big news, we didn't get Alex Bregman.
Nope, he goes to Boston.
Boston gave him a stupid contract.
There is a lot of deferred money though.
There is, and the Cubs are unwilling to do that.
And that is where I'm upset because I felt like the actual offer the Cubs put forth in terms of financials wasn't some sort of shockingly low, stupid offer. Like, it's like, okay, you're offering him a fair amount of money over a decent number of years. You're not going six because nobody else is. But why are you just saying no to deferred money when everyone else is doing it?
Yeah. And you know what? Honestly, had in a vacuum, if you had showed me the Cubs offer, I would have been like, oh yeah, they might actually get him. Because I thought it was a very, very good offer. But Boston was just like, fuck it. We're going all in. And you lose out on him. And it gets a double whammy is Matt Shaw has an oblique injury.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so here you
Uh,
are with your young player who doesn't have very many professional games under his belt in the minors, and he's got, and I don't know how serious it is. Craig Counsell's downplaying it, but anytime you start in the spring training with an oblique, we know from say a Suzuki that that could be bad.
Oblique is never something you want to mess around with.
No, especially
It's
especially
yeah,
with a guy who's a bopper.
right,
So
right.
now who's your third baseman?
John Birdie.
Yeah. I mean, the question then becomes, do the Cubs try to trade for somebody?
I think they'll just sign one of the last few people that are out there. There are rumors about Justin Turner, although I think they're going to use him more if they do get him. He's more of a potential first base DH. He hasn't really played much third base the past few years. He's 40 years old. One guy I pointed out was Paul DeYoung, but he just signed with the Nationals today, so that is
Or
off the
a
table.
guy that hit 24 home runs last year signed for $1 million.
Well, and that's why I saw Paul DeYoung, and I even wrote about it for Cubby Scrum. I'm like, hey, the guy can hit for some pop. Last year, if you look at the defensive metrics, he was pretty good over there at third base. I thought that was a really good insurance policy potentially. You're not going to get a big on base or a batting average with him. But if you have a little bit of pop there who can field this position, I'd say okay. Maybe he saw a better opportunity to start more games, knowing that he would not be the number one guy if he came here, barring injury. But regardless, it's moot at this point. He is no longer available.
I mean, for
So,
$1 million, that it would have been nice to have him because he can play all three of the infield positions, like
and
second,
you
third,
have
short.
Nico who is coming back from injury, and you have
Hmm.
Swanson who's going to be under load management.
Hmm. I think that would have been a smart move. Um,
Yeah.
the other option is not a good one because of the team that he currently plays for is Nolan Arenado.
That's
And
not going to happen.
it's not going to happen. Cardinals are not going to trade with the Cubs. And if he played elsewhere, like all right, maybe that's a realistic option, but they're not. That's not happening.
But the other thing too is some people, and I get why you did it. I'm not saying this is a bad opinion. Some people were worried about the potential decline of Alex Bregman. Okay, that's fair. If you really want to talk about decline and someone who's even older, that's Nolan Arenado. He can still field, but the bat isn't quite as potent as it once was. Maybe he battles back this year and he plays more like Nolan Arenado, but if you look over the past 2 years, his offensive numbers are just not the all-star elite numbers that they once were. And he's 34 now, or he's either 34 or he's going to be 34.
He's 34 now.
Yeah,
Um, and but it again, if it wasn't the Cardinals, it was somebody else, they would be eating some of that money.
right,
He signed for this season, next season, and the season after. And currently he's get $21 million this year, 16 next year, and 15 the year after. So he's uh it's not chump change, but it's also not the most ridiculous amount of money.
right.
And if another team is paying half of that, that's not terrible. Um, uh, let's see. Roto Champ projecting Nolan Arenado. Here we go. Um, his composite projections between Steamer, ATC, etc., is 19 home runs, 309 OBP, 715 OPS.
See, that's very average.
But again, I don't think I think the plan is Matt Shaw. And so that batting average doesn't put you in a hole if Matt Shaw is not ready, but it also doesn't block him if Matt Shaw is ready.
Yes, I just think if you're making a trade like that, you want to get a guy in his prime, not somebody who's declining.
Fair. Fair. Um,
Like, I don't give a shit about Ricketts and his wiener wallet. Spend all the money you want regardless. But if you're actually trading assets away, you have to be smart about that. That's just where I'm at.
I just don't know how much you have to give up to give Nolan Arenado at this point.
I mean, probably not as much if they're looking to eat salary. So I don't know. But to me, it's like if they got him at a sweetheart deal, okay. Like, okay. I just
But you're not getting
if
a
you're
sweetheart
gonna
deal from Cardinals.
not from the Cardinals, no.
The thing that bothers me the most is so, all right, Tom Ricketts ponied up money to put in an offer in on Bregman,
Hmm.
but that money suddenly disappears now that Bregman goes to Boston, that they don't get that money to spend elsewhere. That's the frustrating part is you found the money for Bregman, but you couldn't continue that on with another player.
Yeah. Well, between that and the whole thing we were talking about with the deferrals, like, and even Bruce Levine, who we know kind of shills for Chicago sports owners, was saying, well, they don't want to because look, oh, they got John Lester and Jason Hayward still getting deferred money. It's like, really? First of all, that deferred money they're getting is peanuts in all things considering. Second of all, those two were part of a team that won you a World Series. Did the Jason Hayward contract really scare the Ricketts into spending money like that?
I mean,
I just,
it
it
shouldn't.
shouldn't. It shouldn't. And you know what? As corny, as stupid as it sounds, and as much as I hate some of the cliche crap, Jason Hayward made that speech in the locker room. And I think that did make a difference. So, no, he didn't play up to his contract, not even close. But he gave you a few gold gloves, and he gave you that moment which brought you your first championship in 108 years.
John Lester played up to his contract.
Yes. Oh, yeah. John Lester was worth every single penny.
Yeah.
Not even a question.
So I'm going to throw two names out at you, and you tell me your level of interest for the Cubs.
Okay.
One is one that would require you to trade for.
Okay.
The other is currently an unrestricted free agent.
Okay.
Which would you like first?
Give me the trade.
Dylan Cease.
I would be very interested in exploring that. Yes.
I think it's stupid to not explore it. The only problem is you've got to extend him. I'm terrified of the Tucker thing being a 1 year rental.
Listen, it's going to be a 1 year rental. I have 90% certainty that it's going to be a 1 year rental with the 10% of a miracle happening after.
And because Dylan Cease, I think you're going to have to pay way more than you do for Kyle Tucker. And
Well, here's the way I see it. This is just my take. Say you extended Kyle Tucker and you had Cease for 1 year, and then Cease leaves and Cade Horton comes up, and Cade Horton is who he's, hyped up to be. I think you could live with that, right?
I could live with that much more. I could live with that.
Right. All
It's I
hypothetical, of course.
Yes. I could live with that because you have a guy in your minor league system that you feel could step up and be a big time pitcher. Um, I don't know who you have in your at the corner outfield spot that I mean, I guess you've got some guys, but I don't know. Are they the caliber of Kyle Tucker? Those guys are hard to get.
Yes, like is Owen Casey going to be that guy? Is Kevin Alcantara going to be that guy? We don't know.
We don't know. And if you feel they are, wouldn't you rather wouldn't you rather at some point move an Ian Happ and keep Tucker and Owen Casey if you feel Owen Casey's going to be another thunder bat in your lineup?
Maybe if you're able to move the no trade clause with Ian Happ.
How much? What's his left of his contract?
Boy, I want to say it's like 2 years. I don't know if there's an option afterwards.
Let's see.
I mean, while you look that up, the way I see this whole thing is you've basically given yourself a window over the next 2 years. And that's why I wanted to do the Bregman deal to maximize that window. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little salty we didn't get him. And maybe it turns out not being so bad. Maybe Bregman is older. But you know what? Even if he's older and he does decline, I was okay with taking that chance. I would rather be bold and take a chance than not. And they tried, they did. It might not have been the best try, but it wasn't a bad one, I don't think. If you're going to give yourself a window like this, try to maximize it. That's been my whole thinking this offseason.
Um, Hap's got this year and next year.
Yeah.
21,
Right.
21 million this year, 19 million next year.
Exactly. So there you go. I mean, that's your window because I believe Nico Horner's contract is, in terms of years, somewhat similar.
I believe so. The other name I'm going to throw out there is an unrestricted free agent, Jose Quintana.
No,
No interest.
no. And you know what? I'm one of the lesser anti Jose Quintana people out there. I don't see you have enough fly ball pitchers. I don't think you need to add another fly ball pitcher.
Looking at his projections. Um, his composite projection across the different projections. These are not looking good. 4.5 ERA, 1.39 WHIP. Those aren't great numbers. That's a big jump from
Well, yeah, and
last year.
right, right, and like I said, I feel like a Jose Quintana would be so redundant of the kind of pitching staff that you have already.
I think the Cubs need a veteran third baseman that you would feel confident enough if they had to play, 100 games. Could you live with 100 games of that third baseman? I think they need that guy. And I think you need another starting pitcher.
Yeah, right now, no.
So
I agree. Yes, I agree.
And my fear is that we're not Nostradamus here, but I think us and most Cubs fans are pretty good at identifying, hey, that's a big hole. And last year was the bullpen. We all just went, hey, that's a big problem. And they didn't fix it. And guess what? The bullpen was a huge problem last year.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And when you talk about starting pitching, the thing that I've always said is I think you need another top 3 pitcher because I said this on other shows. I'm a big Jameson Taillon guy, but ideally, Jameson Taillon should be your 3 or 4. And he shouldn't be your 2 because I see Shota Imanaga honestly, is your three. Justin Steele is your ace. So if you're going Imanaga as your three, that basically means that Jameson Tyone is your two. Tyone should be your three or four. And I think you need another two. And that's what a Dylan Cease would either give you your one or your two, whether it's Steele or Cease. Like that right there would go a long, long way.
That the Cease and Steele, that's a 1-2 combo that could take you really far in the postseason.
Yes, absolutely.
Like that is, I mean, when Arizona won the World Series with Kurt Schilling and Randy Johnson, like I don't know if I want to call those two Kurt Schilling, Randy Johnson, but like that degree of carry a team, that's a huge, huge, you know, burden that they're carrying. If you have Shota, if Shota has this, I think you're going to see regression here. But if you see a similar season to last year, and he's your three, like that's really good. That what you see there is three guys that are losing streak enders, and that's a lot of times what you need in a lineup is a guy, every team's going to go on some sort of losing streak, but you
Yes.
need a guy in there that can go in there and break that. You're like, okay, that's it.
You need to stop
Our
it. Yep.
losing streak ends it at 5 days. That's it. I'm ending it. And if you get Cease, you've got three of those guys.
Yeah.
And, it's baseball is a funny game, throw out last season because the White Sox just were an all-time terrible team. But, you look at it as 50 wins, 50 losses. What do you do in those other 62 games? Like that's been a kind of a gold standard way of looking at things. And,
Right.
the difference between a team that wins their division and doesn't, the margin of error is not that big. It's a couple of games, and you stop those losing streaks, nip them in the bud, and you're right in the hunt of things. You're going to win your games. Just don't go in those big losing streaks, and you should be okay.
Right. Exactly.
Um, there's not a lot White Sox to talk about, but I don't know if you read about Bobby Jenks, former White Sox Bobby Jenks.
I did, yes. Very, very sad. And obviously praying that he pulls through. It was pretty shocking news when I saw it. I know he was coaching baseball in the area. Um, wasn't he with he was with a team in the area. I know he was coaching there, but
He
yeah,
got the double whammy. It, uh, he got the cancer and his house burned down in the California wildfires.
oh, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, like that's a terrible double whammy.
Yeah, man, that's awful. I mean, yeah, our thoughts and prayers are definitely with Bobby Jenks. That's really awful. And obviously, if you're a Sox fan, you know how invaluable he was during that '05 season and the playoffs and the postseason and, being one of the better closers in baseball for that run there. He kind of defied the odds of his own and was able to get that role. So you got to give him a lot of credit for what he did to get to where he was in his career. And, now he's got some battles to fight and, a lot of people will be standing by with him.
Yeah, according to CBS News, he had been living in Portugal to be closer to his wife's family. He spent part of last year managing the Windy City Thunderbolts in Crestwood in
That's
the
what it was.
southwest
The Windy
suburbs.
City Thunderbolts. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but um, he was hoping to recover well enough to manage a second season this coming year. He wanted to join the White Sox 20th anniversary of the World Series, and um, but but he's got stage 4 cancer, and his house burned down in the wildfire, and He lost all of his personal baseball memorabilia except his World Series ring. It's the only piece of
Jeez.
memorabilia he had because he brought it with him to Portugal. Here's a quote from him.
Jeez.
I've got one suitcase left to my name. It's all gone. Everything else I've ever done. I have everything uh first to first. All those things are irreplaceable.
That's just awful.
Yep.
Man.
That's a tough pill to swallow, man. I mean, like stage 4 cancer and you lose everything.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily he had the World Series ring with him. Imagine losing that too. It's just tough, it's I feel awful for Bobby Jenks. I
Yeah.
hope I hope uh I hope, fortune, is in his favor going forward because that's a double whammy that nobody needs.
Yeah. Awful.
Um, do you want what do we have to talk about the Hawks and the Bulls?
Well, the Bulls, I really have nothing. Monte Buzelis is awesome, but that's about it. In terms of the Hawks, I want to say, have you watched this four country face off?
I've watched parts of it. Like last night I saw bits and pieces. I was out, but I caught a little bit of it on TV at where I was at, and it looked like a good game.
Oh, it was
USA
great. I
versus
was I was
Canada.
out with some friends for one of my friend's birthday. The game was on at the place, and it this yeah this whole thing was awesome. It really really was. The NHL knocked this one out of the park. This is honestly really outshining the other All-Star games in the winter sports. Like nobody really cares about the Pro Bowl and what they do now, and the NBA All-Star game isn't really much anymore. So I think in general, just the All-Star games have really lost their luster, and this is a great way to substitute it.
Yeah, this is great, and I think most people agree because the last night's game with the USA versus Canada had 4.5 million television viewers in the United States. That's a big number.
Yeah.
It's a big
Yeah, the,
number.
the NHL All-Star game isn't getting that rating.
No, the NHL finals, the Stanley Cup finals aren't getting that kind of rating.
Right. Yeah, I mean this is big and this is a legit competition. This isn't watered down, like, oh, they're not playing defense. They're not going out and just half skating, whatnot. They're going out there and picking fights as soon as the puck drops.
Oh yeah, I mean, right off the bat, there's just a bunch of fights. It was that everybody is
Three
playing in
fights
this.
in 9 seconds to start the game yesterday.
Yeah, this was a game that both those teams wanted. They wanted bad.
Oh,
And
yeah. It was like country pride.
yeah, and this was just a really good game. That American team is really good. And you're right. This NHL crushed it with this. I mean,
Yep.
especially when you look at the NBA and you've got, a borderline G League player winning the dunk contest, which kudos to him, to Mac McClung. But if you're the
Who cares?
NBA, do you want Mac McClung to be winning your dunk contest?
No, people in the old days watched, Jordan and all
Dominique
those.
Wilkins.
I just, it's not the same.
Um, yeah, I mean, like, all right, let's go back. Mac McClung has won the last three. And then before that is Obi Toppin, Anthony Simmons, Derek Jones Jr. Uh, like I'm trying to look. Last time, like Zach Levine, like an actual, like a really good player. Zach Levine won twice. Um, Blake Griffin won. Dwight Howard won in 2008. Um,
Yeah, those are your stars. Those are your big
it,
names. Those are the players people watch.
yeah, it's been a quarter of a century since you had like superstars win. Vince Carter won in 2000. Uh, Kobe Bryant. Um, see, you look at Dominique Wilkins, Michael Jordan. Like that's like put some names in there. I don't want Mac McClung winning three in a row. Yeah, that's
Yeah, nobody cares about that.
like nobody cares about that. Like the dunk contest when I was a kid was so cool. Like so cool. And I'm looking like, all right, when I was my daughter's age, Michael Jordan was winning the dunk contest.
Hmm.
That was cool. That was really cool. Dominique Wilkins was winning the dunk contest. Uh, but
People share those stories over time.
yeah, it's nobody's gonna go back and talk about Mac McClung. That's a bar trivia question.
Are you kidding me? I'm gonna sit in my rocking chair with my pipe.
I was sitting in my rocking chair, smoking my purple crayon. Uh, but like when you're like, that's a bar trivia. That's like all right. Who was the only player to win three consecutive dunk contests in the NBA? And everyone's gonna be like Michael Jordan, Dominique Wilkins. They'd be like, no, Mac McClung. Uh, like that's not a good look for the NBA. Who's the NBA whose like stock is down right now as a whole. Like viewership is
Yeah,
down.
it's all dropping. Yeah, I mean, I think people just don't want to watch the games at 2K where everyone is just chucking up threes.
Yeah, I mean, I get it's hard to change how the game evolves too, but if that's not what people want to watch, you've got to fix it. And you have the NBA on a huge rise. Like they were dominating the other non-NFL sports in the United States. And now they've come back down to earth. I I wonder if people are watching less sports in general or if the NFL is just growing that much and people are just focusing on that because baseball has been pretty stagnant in their viewership. The NHL hasn't grown. So when the NBA is dipping, like where are these people going? They just not watching sports?
I mean, the NFL is so big now. It's so big. You have games on every holiday, no matter what day of the week now. You have all these streaming services with the games. You have kids channels like Nickelodeon showing games. The NFL is everywhere, and I'll never forget a few years ago, it was week 1 of the NFL, and it was a day where I know it was pandemic season, but Alec Mills threw a no-hitter for the Cubs. The White Sox were dominating and were en route to a playoff berth, but the Bears played week 1 and that just triumphed over everything else that was going on.
Like honestly, the NFL, if they were smart, these spring leagues that are popular, like the XFL type. I don't even know what they are now. The NFL should be,
USFL, whatever they call
yeah,
them, yeah.
the NFL should be partnering with them. It's not taking away from the NFL product. It should be keeping people's interest on football all year round and use it to showcase young players. Like, okay, it's, you look at like the winter league in baseball where you got, young players that you want to keep working. They're playing winter ball. They should have like backup players that you want seasoning for. Like the Bears backup quarterback should be playing in the fall league, or the spring league. They should have players in there. Like, that should be an option for if you don't want to play in college to play there to get to the NFL. Like partner with them. It works for the NBA where, not everybody's college. Like look at how many players are coming from, professional leagues and overseas and things.
Yeah, you got the summer league too.
Yeah, like that's what the NFL should do. Partner with those USFL and such and grow, you know, and maybe even do the European League and the USFL, and then sponsor the winner of each of those leagues playing their own version of the Super Bowl. So you've got international appeal growing. It's not just in a vacuum. Like, the Barcelona Dragons. Like, okay, who gives a shit about that? Like, have Americans learn those teams too, because they got to compete against, the Michigan Battlehawks. Like, I want to see, partner with these, grow that brand, that you be year round.
Yeah, everyone plays for the OK Bowl, not the Super Bowl for that league.
Um, but looping it back to the NBA, I just saw a stat. Do you know how the television viewership between last year and this year is for the Bulls?
It's way down. I mean, I know part of it is because of the new network that doesn't get on Xfinity, but it's pretty big, isn't it?
It's down 63%.
Yeah, yeah.
That is a huge drop.
It is. And sure, if the team was better, more people would be paying for subscriptions if they didn't have Xfinity or buying antennas or whatever. But there's no incentive to go out of your way to try to watch them.
There's three teams that have their games almost exclusively on this channel. And what is it, like $30 a month? And the teams are the Bulls, who are bad, the Blackhawks, who are bad, and the White Sox, who are historically bad. So, like, why would you pay $30 for that? And like, I'm a guy who I bought an antenna, so I can watch those games. It comes in fine. I can watch it. I can see it. The antenna was like $50 and it works perfectly. But I'm a guy that likes, I don't want to, I don't always have the time to be sitting there at the game time. I go back and watch it. So I DVR things and I go back, or, I start it late. Like, okay, like, I get the kid to bed and finish putting dinner away and whatnot. And then I'll sit down and start watching at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, when the game would be over. So now I'm just seeing the end instead of getting to start the DVR, so it sucks. It sucks the way that they're doing it. And what sucks even more is, you want to hear a gross stat? All
Always.
right. So next season, the Bulls have Vucevic under contract for $21.5 million, Zach Collins for 18.1, P. Will for 18, and Kevin Herter for 18. That is 50% of your salary cap on those four players. 50% of your salary cap is four players that nobody else wants.
God, Patrick Williams. Ugh. Did you see Herder miss that dunk the other night?
I did. I
Did
did.
you
I
hear
didn't see it
about that?
live. I didn't see it live, but I saw a record video of it.
Well, neither did I. Yeah, me too. Oy, bleak.
It's just sucks. We need the Bears to be good next year, to have something to be happy about.
Isn't that scary? Isn't that a scary thought? We have to rely on the Bears.
My friend, he's like a casual sports fan. Um, and I hung out with him the day, because last year it was the day after the draft. The NFL draft was the big Chicago comic book convention, C2E2. And I met up with him on that Friday after the first round draft, and I was so excited about um, the Bears having a quarterback. And after the season was over, he goes, "Man, you were the one that ruined this all, because you were so excited about how good the Bears were going to be with that quarterback." And I was like, "Shut up. Just shut up and let me be miserable without rubbing it in." Uh,
Yeah, right. Yeesh.
yeah. So I'm like, yeah, just put salt in the wound. Why don't you?
Seriously, we already have enough salt in our wounds. It's gonna be like the Chicago streets. We're getting massive hunks of salt in our wounds.
uh, yeah, the plow just coming through, a mini plow coming through and just dumping salt in the wounds. You're like,
Yep.
stop, leave me alone.
Seriously, we've had
Yeah, we've had enough
enough.
misery for a lifetime.
Yeah, no kidding.
We need like a decade-long run of Chicago sports just being epic.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be waiting around a while for that.
Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Nope, I've said my piece.
I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. Help grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, or ShyFanPat2 for Alex on Twitter/X, or AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you all so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears. Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.